Well, I worked for 9.5 hours yesterday with this little creature, and most of it was just reading lots and lots and lots of readings. And then I worked on the ESC again. I just really do want voltage and current to work. Voltage does. My problem with the ESC was that although you can see it right here, and let me turn on my radio and bring up a little voltage. You can see here that as far as the ESC telemetry and stuff is concerned, we've got the temperature and the voltage right here. The RPM will come up. See? But the current just wouldn't do a thing. I just could not get the current to do anything. I did so many backflips it wasn't even funny. I found that I had basically started out a little bit wrong. In my opinion, it doesn't seem to make any difference. There's a Ardu Copter version of the firmware for the H743 Slim weighing, but there's also a H743 BD Shot firmware for D-Shot compatibility. So I've loaded that. You can easily tell that in the messages when the platform boots up. You can see right here, RC out, D-Shot, 600 1 through 4 channels, PWM on 5 through 13. But right here you'll see now it says Maytech H743-BD Shot. Before yesterday it just said Maytech H743. I stripped this down to installing the firmware from scratch at least 6 times yesterday while I was reading D-Shots and all sorts of stuff. So that it was deep. But I could not get any. I could get voltage, RPM, temperature, but I could not get this current, period. I've searched everywhere. So I sort of gave up. I backed off. I went in and looked at the flight controller again. And although this does not have any kind of a current sensor in it, it does have a pin for current sensing, and that is this pin right here. I hooked up the telemetry, and the telemetry does work, but it just doesn't work for current for me. So I had to fall back to this current pin right here. CUR. So the first battery, that's for bat 2. That's bat 2. Where's bat 1? Oh, Lordy. Maybe I should have waited till I was more awake. I found it this morning real quick. Oh, man, how about that? Well, I happen to know it's pin 11. Maybe I found it here. Yeah, here we go. There's no pad. There's a pad for battery 2 current, but there's no pad for battery 1. It's built into the connector. So that is battery current pin 11, and starters for it are battery amp per volt 40, I don't think I set the amp per volt this morning when I was playing with this. So we've dropped back from having our battery monitor on 9 for ESC. Just doesn't work for us, to 4 again. And we've got our battery current pin on 11 right here. Voltage pin 10. Oops, that wasn't what I wanted. Voltage pin 10. Yep. Voltage multiplier 11. Multiplier 11, pin 10, pin 11, and let's see, where is the battery amp per volt right here, 40. So that sets that up in that way rather than ESC telemetry. And now, if we come out here and I arm this creature for a little bit, and I don't have any props on it and stuff, so it's not going to pull much current. And it's not locked up sats yet, so I can't arm it normally. But you'll see the current come up right here. I'll try to switch over to that quick menu real quick. And you can see right here, as I play with the motors a little bit, you can see the current lashing around there. Again, they're not going to pull much on this at all. So I've got my voltage and current that I wanted. Yesterday, I did a lot on my further tuning. And basically this is where I am in my tuning, doing the initial flight, post-flight analysis for the in-flight FFT-based harmonic notch filter tuning. Well, that's a mouthful, isn't it? So I got my FFT turned on. And this is it. FFT enabled from a 0 to a 1 here. Then you reboot and all these other parameters pop up. I'm going to leave them at default. I know that it is working because you can see right here in the messages, right here, FFT calibrated at 2 kilohertz, 15.6 hertz, and 375 hertz. So that's ready to go for my next step in my tuning, which is a 30-second altitude hold hover, and then I download the data flash logs without the harmonic notch being enabled, and look at FTN1 PK average. I'll grab those logs. Those were just created this morning, as you can see. 12/31, 1979. That's not right. And if you look inside one of those logs, What do they want now? FTN1 PK average. So they want this FTN1 right here. PK average, this right here. And I am getting census from that. So when I actually do the hover and get usable data in here, I'll be ready to go. Not a lot to talk about, was there? I did come over in Ardocopter for the Slim and read about it. Did get a lot of good information out of here. This is a really good chart for that, for figuring out what your UART versus serial ports. UART on the hardware here versus the serial ports on Ardu. All you have to do is go, UART 4 is serial 6, UART 2 is serial 3. Of course, the other one works pretty good for me. Okay. For this particular controller, all motor / servo outputs are D-Shot compatible. So that told me one portion of the Ardocopter setup where you have to move those 4 motor channels up to the aux channels was not required for me, so that wasn't my problem. I just kept going through this and trying my best to get the current sensor working, but I never did. So, and right here it says firmware that supports bidirectional D-Shot on the Ardu site, which this is where you get the firmware too, the same page, is the H743-BD shot. That's why I downloaded this yesterday and used this as the firmware underneath everything. Then I checked what it did for me. Went back to the non-BD shot firmware, checked it against that, put it back up, checked things, took it back down, checked things, put it back up, checked things, took it back down, checked things, decided I didn't get anywhere, decided to put the BD shot firmware back on it, put it back like it was, and go for the normal, this right here, ways of getting current and sensing. It was a rough day yesterday. That's some complex reading. But I find I just have to read it again and again and again and again, and maybe each time I read it, one more sentence becomes clear. And by the time I read it for the 500th time, I sort of understand half of it. But the monkey can follow instructions, I guess. So, all right, guys. It rained all day yesterday. Then last night, it's going towards freezing around here again at night, which isn't unusual. But the cold air came in last night. It's supposed to continue to get cold through Sunday, I think. As you've seen from my small little place in the backyard, it's just a little bit better than trying some of this in your basement. Just like you can't do an auto-tune in your basement, I can't do it in this little old backyard. Or won't. I don't want to break parts. I did do that with the flame wheel and stuff out there and broke parts. I don't want to do it on this one. So I do have the front field out front that I can try to use for some of these shorter flights. Possibility of an auto tune out there. I would rather go to the sod fields, but it's so muddy. I don't want to make tracks in them and cause me and the rest of the AMA club that flies there to lose their flying field. By Tuesday of next week, it's supposed to head back to being 60 during the day. This weekend, we could have some, couldn't tell really what they said last night, either single digit temperatures at night or wind chills in the single digits. Either way, it's not my kind of weather. So, it will be quite a while, I think, 4 or 5 days before I can get to the sod field. I always tell you guys this, and the next day I violate what I say, so, perhaps. So that's where it is. If I can start doing the notch filter tuning in this front field, I may do that. We'll just see. Thank you guys for everything. You guys have really helped me just... Oh, yeah, there was one other thing. Helped me move forward without making mistakes so much. I came into the Arducopter stuff and was looking at that motor hover learn and this is where we oh man, oh well. So Copter includes automatic learning of the hover throttle, previously known as mid throttle. The motor thrust hover value will slowly move towards the average motor output whenever the vehicle is holding in a steady hover. I've had a little bit of trouble with this because I just don't understand it. Don't like the program working against me when I move the throttle. When I say against me, I mean changing values. If you wish to manually set the motor thrust hover value, it is best to download a data flash log and set the value that is seen in CTune TH0 field. This value should be between 0.2 and 0.8. You remember, I said, boy, we always used to set it by a PWM value, which I may go back to doing. But this sentence right here, if for some reason you wish to disable learning, you can set the motor hover learn parameter to 0. Well, that's how you disable it. It's not you can. A little bit of interpretation problems here. And that's the end of this page. So, this implies to me that you don't disable that. If for some reason you wish to disable. Well, the reason I wish to disable it is if I'm trying to get it to hover and I go up to, let's say, a few points above mid throttle and it slows down, it's going down, I'm below mid throttle, it's going down, so I raise it above mid throttle and it starts going up. If it starts to slow down, I kind of try to lower that throttle down towards mid. Well, that's what the program's trying to do too. So we're both trying to do the same thing at the same time. Whoever gets there first seems to win. Or it seems that way to me right now. So, but this sort of answers the question I threw out there in the past videos. If for some reason you wish to disable, well, there may be a reason I do. I don't know yet. So, if you go to next, it goes into auto trim and save trim. So there's no more information here on this. This is everything there is on that particular topic. I may go look on the internet for a little more. YouTube, search this value and see what I can find.
Well, I ran out to get a breakfast biscuit real quick, and I think this is going to tell the tale of whether or not there's going to be a auto-tune today. The wind has come up terribly. I may be able to get just one little 30-second flight in the backyard where it's somewhat protected, but we'll see.
I also figured this out yesterday, how to do the manual tuning on a potentiometer. And you saw me talking about this screen that was confusing to me because this doesn't exist in today's firmware, the channel 6 option. So I started digging on that yesterday. And what I found was the tune parameter. Right there is associated with transmitter channel 6, and you can use this to set up for rate, roll, pitch, KP, or you can do exactly what they say over here, and it does work. Although this screen, and if you see a video on this, they don't match. These actually do work. Set the tune drop down box to rate, roll, pitch, KP. So this is the tune drop down box. It has nothing to do with this R6 option over here. That's what confused me. I didn't know what was going on here. What they're telling you, I think, here is if you set something here, that's what R6 will be. If you don't set anything here and leave it to do nothing, then it takes this on the left side of it. So rate on roll and pitch, KP. That's set. Set them minimum to 0.08, max to 0.2. Now then, I'm going to set it to 0.06 so I don't get an error, because mine's already set to 0.065. So I'm going to set that to 0.06 as the lowest, and 0.8 is the highest. Oops. Oh, come on. 0.8. There we go. So that's what they said to do. Okay, 0.06 is what I set it to instead of 0.8. The max to 0.2. Okay. God, it's early in the morning. 0.2. And I've already been out to Bojangles for a biscuit. I'm going to write those parameters out while I'm here. Yeah, see, it warns you. Here, I won't leave those that way. Push the right parameters button. Turn your transmitter 6 tuning knob to the minimum position. I'm going to do that on my radio. Press the refresh parameters button and ensure that the rate roll becomes 0.06 or something very close. Turn it to the maximum position. Refresh. See that it moves to 2. Move it to the middle. Okay, let's see what we got here. We're still at 675 up here. I'm all the way to the minimum, so I'll hit refresh. Takes a bit to refresh this creature. Not sure what's going on there. We're connected with a USB cable, but it is what it is. There we go. So you can see now that's dropped to 0.06 there, 0.06 there. Now I'm going to turn that potentiometer all the way up, and I'm going to hit refresh. And again, this takes just a bit of time. a lot of time. And now you can see it's gone up to 0.2. So if I set it in the middle position like they say and refresh one more time, oh boy, come on. There we go. Now you can see I've got something between that. I'm still not down to my 0.0675 that I had. So I went down just above all the way to the left. Come on, refresh. Thank you. And you can see that gave me a 0.642. So you see now this switch or potentiometer does work. And the only thing you need to do when you're finished with that is go back in here and set this back to none, which I'm going to do right now for the rest of my none. That, then I think these can stay and it won't matter. And now if I turn the switch and hit refresh, I don't think it'll do a darn thing. There we go. It did. Oh, I guess you have to reboot. I went all the way back up. Oh no, it went back to here. Why did you do that? Oh, I know. See, what's actually happening here when you change this is tune has changed. Over in the full parameters list. See, changed to a 4. This has to change before the other will quit. So I'm going to make that a 0, right parameters. Oops. And you can see right here your tune max and min were right here. So you could as easily put those values right in here. I'm going to set these back to their default. And write that out. And now my flight controller's back to where it was. Okay. There are several other things I learned yesterday, but I'm going to shut up for the day and go back to reading. It's going to be another day of reading. As you see, when I went out to get a sausage biscuit for breakfast, the wind is just ferocious. So I will perhaps do a 30-second hover in the backyard just to see what that FFT produces and study that for today. All right, guys. Again, thank you so much.